Arizona basketball brings in another stellar recruiting class. We have reactions from the players and the coaches of the Arizona Wildcats football team on their annual spring football game. And the NHL and NBA playoffs are now in full swing. All this and more coming up on Dorm Room Sports Chat. Monday to all, and welcome to our studio in the UA Park Student Union. I'm your host, Joey Petrello. I'm joined again by Danny Passavoy of Go AZ Cats and Zoe Wolkowitz, who has been on the camp radio airwaves and printed in the Daily Wildcat, but she's making her debut on DRSC as a freshman tonight for Evan Murray. Sean Miller has once again produced one of the nation's top-tier recruiting classes in 2014. The freshman you will see on the court for the Wildcats players varies in size and ability. The group was even ranked number 6 amongst the country's top recruiting classes. Let's introduce you to the future of Arizona basketball right now. To start off, we have Stanley Johnson from Santa Ana, California. He'll be playing shooting guard, nice big body. Take a look at his athleticism. The flush right there, a lot of confidence in him. He can drive to the basket and finish like few others in high school did. Let's move on to the next player, Craig Victor. He's coming over as a 4-star recruit, the 37th rated prospect. Take a look at his ability. In the paint, he can dunk. One-on-one, he also has a nice jump shot. He has an uncanny ability to break away, find an open look, and knock the shot down. Let's move on. After him will be Parker Jackson Cartwright, coming out of Los Angeles, California. He's a point guard, so TJ McConnell could be gone after next year. He could be the future of Arizona. Sinks the jump shot there, and he has a pretty one. One of his biggest strengths is ball control, and he can squeeze through those holes just like that. Watch him come right up the middle, off the glass and in. Let's move on to the next player. Dusan Ristic, he just recently signed with Sean Miller's class. He is actually a native of Novi Sad, Serbia, just committed last Thursday, and you can never have enough big men on the team. He's a 4-star recruit, showing why in this video. Grabs the rebound there and lays it in. He is an absolute force close to the basket and under the post, and he is going to make waves in Tucson very soon. Let's move on to the next player. Kadeem Allen. He is from Wilmington, North Carolina, committed October 28th, 2013. Another 4-star recruit, can do it all. Look at him in the paint here. As Sean Miller often does, he recruits guys that not only can play the post, but look at that jump shot right there as well. Look at that swat. Get out of his house. Arizona's losing athletes like Aaron Gordon. They also lost a leader and an all-around player, Nick Johnson, to the NBA, and that will certainly hurt the team. But standouts such as Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, Brandon Ashley, and Caleb Tarczewski, they're all staying put. So how will these new players complement the returnees?
Well, I think by having Stanley Johnson, if anyone's watched him in the McDonald's All-American game or the Jordan Classic, you can tell he's a completely lights-out shooter. And head coach Sean Miller actually says that he's the best recruit that he has ever had.
Wow.
And, you know, everyone was all hyped up for Aaron Gordon and having him, and now he's at the NBA, but I'm actually a lot more impressed with how Stanley Johnson's looking. And he, I think out of all the recruits, is the only one that's probably guaranteed to be a starter, and I think that he is better than Aaron Gordon, so I think he's going to be a lot bigger impact for the team.
I mean, there are a lot of guys in this recruiting class that could definitely make a pretty big impact for the Wildcats next year. And it starts with Stanley Johnson. Like you said, he's one of the premier players in the country. I think he's ranked number 3 overall by Rivals and Scout. This guy can flat out play, but don't sleep on Kadeem Allen. This guy is a JUCO, Junior College Player of the Year, and the guy can just flat out score. But what he also brings to the table is he's a lockdown defender. Maybe not as good as Nick Johnson was, but we didn't see Nick Johnson emerge as a lockdown defender until his sophomore year. And he went from pretty much 28 steals to 70 steals over one season. This is a guy who can definitely make an impact, and the decision for Brandon Ashley, Caleb, and Rondé Hollis-Jefferson to come back is huge to this team because those are complementary players that help make other players better on the court.
And so, Danny, also as Coach Miller continues to bring in elite recruiting classes, as I mentioned, the number 6 one this year, it's looking like more and more of his players are going to be leaving for the NBA after just 1 year here in Tucson. Stanley Johnson certainly has the biggest hype of 2014, the recruiting class. So is there anyone else in the group that you think could be ready for the association after just their freshman year?
You know, it's super hard to tell because other than Stanley Johnson, we really haven't seen that much of Craig Victor yet. We saw a lot of Kadeem Allen. Is he NBA ready? Only time can tell. He hasn't played at the Division I level. I think right now we're only looking at Stanley Johnson probably being a one-and-done guy, but Sean Miller's done a great job in recruiting guys that could definitely be here for a while. Ristich is a 7-footer and a guy that Arizona needs to fill Caleb's shoes, who's looking like he's going to be gone after the season. So I think he's going to be here for a while. So will Craig Victor, and he'll kind of take on a Brandon Ashley role when Brandon Ashley's probably gone after the season. I think Stanley's the only one that will probably go, but who knows? Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, really is pushing for the 2-year and done rule. He doesn't like the one and done rule. So who knows if we'll see a change within the year.
I know Sean Miller doesn't like that rule either. Zoe, you got thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great having Parker Jackson Cartwright because this year he's not going to have a ton of playing time because, he's a backup point guard kind of for McConnell. He can obviously give McConnell like a rest on the bench, but Arizona the past few years has lacked a true point guard until last season, and now you're going to have Cartwright who's training under McConnell, who's going to be basically seeing how everything works, and Sean Miller is going to love having that, and that's going to help a lot. And also, Craig Victor is going to be someone like a staple, kind of a staple, for 1 or 2 years, unlike Stanley Johnson or like Aaron Gordon, people like that who can help build the team and build a bigger thing because most of Arizona's front court has been leaving and hasn't had everything. But with Risick and Victor, you're going to have a lot bigger depth of front court than just back court.
Yeah, Parker Jackson Cartwright's a guy who I don't think this year, but in the future, could definitely end up being Arizona's top point guard. And I was able to see him play in LA just from being from LA. And this guy is one of the fastest point guards you'll see on the basketball court. His hand and ball skills were unlike anything I've seen. He's very short, though. He's very, very small, and it's going to be tough for him defending some of the bigger point guards, especially if he would have had to go up against a guy like Kyle Anderson. He just probably wouldn't have been able to. But he's quick. He's got a great jumper, and his court awareness is going to be what makes Arizona fans fall in love with him.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All great points, guys. Well, since we couldn't last week, we are going to show the Wildcat players and the coaches' reactions from their spring game last weekend. This is all coming up after these messages. You are watching Dorm Room Sports Chat on UATV Channel 3.
Hi, it's David Hasselhoff, the Hawk. Get Hawk with UATV. Stay tuned. Don't change the dial.
Thanks for staying on board with us here for DRSC. I'm Joey Petrello alongside Danny Passavoy and Zoe Wolkowitz. Over the weekend of Spring Fling, Arizona football played its annual spring football game. One of the most anticipated returns to the Wildcats receiving corps is wideout Austin Hill, who tore his ACL before even getting to play in a single game last season. After the spring game, Hill talked about coming back from the injury.
Spring went really well for me. Injury-free, that's the best thing that you can do when you get through spring ball, and also get better. So I got my conditioning up, gave my knee a lot of real action. So it was pretty good. It went really well.
The last time Hill played in a game for Arizona, Matt Scott was throwing passes to him. Another familiar face under center just left the program as well in B.J. Danker. Hill talked about what it's like playing with these new signal callers.
It's a little hard to get used to every single quarterback because they just all throw the ball in different areas and in different spots and at different times. So, I just really had to work on just working on being in the same area on every single route so that the quarterbacks know where I am so that they can just get the ball in there.
And Hill's fellow wide receiver Devontae Neal also gave his thoughts on the new quarterbacks.
I love all of our quarterbacks. All our quarterbacks are great, and they're competing this year. It's not going to be easy. Nothing's going to be given, and we know whoever Rich Rod puts on the field, they earned it.
There will be many fresh faces for Arizona football lining up on the defensive side of the ball. With leaders Jake Fisher and Marquise Flowers now gone, Arizona safety Jared Tevis gave an insight to who could be the new playmakers on the Wildcats D.
Some of our younger linebackers stepping up. I saw that, DeAndre Miller has been doing a good job for us, and, some of our young corners have been doing a good job. Devin Holiday, I'm impressed with how he's been playing this spring.
While spring camp may be finished, the Cats will still be training hard for the rest of the semester and beyond for summer camp. Arizona safety William Parks made this clear after the spring game.
We get in the weight room, we're going to be on the field 7 o'clock in the morning before class starts. It's no days off.
Overall, head coach Rich Rodriguez was pleased with how the spring went, but he said it could have been better. Rodriguez noted the competition all around the depth chart will be fierce this upcoming summer camp.
Today's was probably indicative of what it's been most of the spring. Okay at times, uneven at times. Has there been some separation? I think a little bit more so now in the last week than early in the spring. Yeah, but the competition will continue on until August camp.
And one of the biggest questions for Rodriguez heading into next season is Arizona's pass rush. Rich Rod appeared skeptical about the issue.
I think we got guys that go pretty good, but do we have anybody that hold your breath when you pass rush? I haven't seen it this spring. But we have a couple guys that could be pretty solid at it. But again, that's a work in progress.
During the game, Rodriguez went into the crowd and let several fans call a play for the team to run. Only scoring on 2 of the 4 plays, Rodriguez wasn't putting the blame on his fill-in play callers.
Well, I did that last year. I think we had more success, but I'm going to blame it on the plays that they had to choose from. I didn't give them a whole lot of good options, and then the execution was certainly off. But there was 4 of, I don't know how many touchdowns there were, 2 of them, but 4 of them are going to have bad coaching shows this week.
Rodriguez said that the future is bright for Arizona football. There's certainly plenty to fix, but he'll be the first to say that this program is headed in the right direction.
No question. From a recruiting standpoint, from a development standpoint, from a deal where everybody understands how we want to run practice, how we want to run the program, it's night and day. I mean, this is how practice is run so efficiently now as compared to what they did. And, there's stability on the staff. So I feel really good where we're at. And I think this recruiting class coming in, and even though some of them are already here, there'll be some more talent added to the mix. And then going forward, I think we're going to keep getting better.
So, analysts, this is Rich Rodriguez's 3rd season now with Arizona. So how much better, if at all, will the team be in its next campaign?
As far as offense, they're going to be much improved. It just depends who's going to take over the helm at quarterback. But they have some pretty good options right now. They have Connor Brewer, the transfer. We have Gerard Randall, the transfer from LSU. And we also have Jesse Scroggins. Those are the 3 guys who I think fit the offense best. Brewer, not as mobile maybe as Randall or Scroggins, but he's got an arm and he's got the experience. He knows what he's doing. But check out the wide receiver core. Other than Austin Hill, Trey Griffey, Samaje Grant, Nate Phillips, Jones, the transfer from Texas. This is some of the best wide receivers in the Pac-12, all cohesively playing under Rich Rodriguez for the first time. This could be a scary offense. I think even without Kadeem Carey, a better offense than they were last year.
What do you think, Zoe?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with how you say it all depends on the offense, because we all know that our defense was a lot better than our offense last year. You could tell by a game against Oregon upset them, and that was basically something from the D. And I don't know, I wasn't a big fan of our quarterback last year, so I think I speak for some people, but I think that we have a lot of other options and a lot better options for our quarterback. And as you said, the wide receivers are awesome, and we just need someone to throw to them. So.
Yeah, and Danny, it was kind of it was a competition for sure last year, but it really looked like BJ was going to be the guy from the start. This year, that's not so much the case. How much does that help Arizona to be this deep at quarterback now?
It does and it doesn't. I mean, you kind of want to have your quarterback through the spring. I mean, these wide receivers want to have the guy and know who they're going to be working out with the entire spring so they can kind of take that time to mesh with one guy. But when you're playing with 3 guys and you have to go to practices with all 3 guys just to be ready for the season, that makes it pretty difficult. I think Randall's got the best arm. Scroggins probably has the best mobility. Brewer has probably the best field awareness. So it's going to be interesting to see who Rich Rod kind of goes with. I think it's going to be much more difficult even without B.J. Danker. I think this quarterback class is much better. However, they had time to mesh with B.J., and B.J. knew the offense because he's been there for 4 years. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go. But defensively, you got Scooby Wright coming back for his second year. You have Will Parks, Devin Holiday, guys coming back for their second years, guys who can really make an impact. I don't think their defense will be as good because you kind of lose the leadership of Jake Fisher out there. But there's some impact players who can really kind of step up and need to take that leadership, this role, to be as good as they were last year. But the offense, I think, is going to be their biggest improvement.
Yeah, and Zoe, any final thoughts on the depth chart, or what at least it should be, or how far can this Wildcats team go next season?
I think they could go pretty far, but like Danny was saying, they need to pick a quarterback soon so the team can have time to mesh. And if you don't, it's going to be, well, this player knows how to run better with this quarterback, and then players will start picking favorites, and team won't be meshed well. So.
Well, I have a feeling it'll be a while until we hear who that starting quarterback is. It's been a while since we've done a segment on professional sports, so now seems like the perfect time to do one. Right after these messages, we will preview the NHL and NBA playoffs. You are watching Dorman Sports Chat on UATV Channel 3.
The life I lead is the life of a dog. I may have fleas, but I run a yard. I see those clones looking down on me, but unlike those clones, this dog is free. Oh Lord, it's a dog's life. Oh Lord, it's a dog's life, dog's life. Oh Lord, it's a dog's life.
UATV 3. When I turn on the TV, I turn it to Channel 3, cause they got all the greatest shows that I've been waiting to see. It's entertaining to me, cause it's pertaining to me and all the other Wildcats in the student body. We're broadcasting live to all the residence halls, so all y'all's in the halls, turn your TVs on to Channel 3 for Sheezy, so you can see me and all the other happy people down at UATV 3.
The hangover from March Madness just got a little easier to cope with over the weekend at the first postseason tip of the NBA opening puck drop as well in the NHL playoffs. 16 teams from the Eastern and Western conferences commenced their push to the NBA Finals, while the 16 best of the East and West started skating towards their quest for Lord Stanley's Cup. On the hardwood, LeBron James is creating a dynasty and once again has the East's second-seeded Miami Heat on track to its third consecutive title. Meanwhile, in the West, the Spurs of San Antonio have kept their chins held high, even after falling in a heartbreaking 7-game final series to the Heat. They come in as the top seed on that side. Here's a quick look at our DRSC scoreboard. Right now in the NBA playoffs, Oklahoma City and Memphis are playing right now, and the Clippers are in Golden State. Do we have anything on that? We don't. Okay, Danny, who is your pick to go all the way, and which team will defeat it in the finals?
Well, if we're talking about the NBA right now, obviously I'm not watching the Clippers game, but I'm pretty sure they're handling Golden State right now. Very close first game, but as far as depth goes, the Clippers are by far the deepest team in the Western Conference. I mean, outside of their starting 5, they have guys like Crawford, Granger, Big Baby, Darren Collison, guys who can give you good down minutes when you need to rest your starters. I think they're the biggest threat to the Thunder. And you just can't count out Kevin Durant at any time. And especially you saw that today against Memphis. I know they lost the game, but Kevin Durant hit a crazy 3 just to keep the game going. And that's what Oklahoma City can do. But eventually, I think the Clippers' size, and they match up better with the Thunder than any team in the Western Conference with with Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan down low. So I think it's the Clippers out of the West, and I don't think anyone's stopping the Heat out of the East, and we've seen that the last few years, especially the way that the Pacers are playing right now. And unfortunately, I'm not a Heat fan, but I think they end up winning their 3rd title in a row.
I do too.
I really hope the Heat don't win. I hate the Heat. But I actually think that the Spurs are underrated, as they usually are. They're never that team that has, like, the wow, the shocker, like the wow factor player, but they're always, like, a fundamental team. You have, I don't know, I think they could be a very good contender, especially, maybe it could be a Heat Spurs final.
You think there'd be a repeat of the finals last year? It could happen.
I'm hoping the Heat don't go.
See, my only thing against the Spurs right now is, yeah, they did earn the 1 seed. They had the best record in the West. And if they do go to the finals, they have the tiebreaker over the Heat, so they will have home court advantage.
Yeah.
But Tony Parker's injuries, Tim Duncan's injuries, these guys are older guys. And you saw it, like, Tim Duncan went down late in the game against the Mavericks, a game that they weren't in and they shouldn't have won, but found a way to win. I don't think that's going to last against a much younger team in the Thunder or the Clippers. I don't think they're able to get past the Western Conference Finals if they do.
Well, over on the ice, looking down on the rest of the NHL are the Boston Bruins. Beantown looks to add its 3rd Stanley Cup appearance and 2nd win in 4 years as this season's President's Cup victors. But in the West, the Anaheim Ducks' 116 points were just 1 away from being tied with Boston's 4 best in the league. So, Zoe, I know you're a diehard Blues fan. You're from St. Louis. If you feel the Blues will win the Cup this year, you can say it. But honestly, who do you think is going to be competing for it in the end?
Well, I think the Blues are going to make it to the Stanley Cup, but don't give me that look. But
Danny's shaking his head over here.
He's just better because the Kings. But the Boston Bruins, I definitely think, are going to win their 2nd cup in the 4 years over the Blues. They're just the most balanced team in the league. They can score, they can defend, they can tend their goal, they can skate, they can bump players, and they can win almost any type of a game. But I think coming out of the Eastern Conference is going to be a lot more unpredictable than the Western Conference, because I 100% think the Bruins are going to go, but between the Rangers and the Penguins, it could go either way.
Right.
I mean, I might be bitter about the Kings, but they were in a position last year down 0-2 right now to the Sharks like they were to the Blues last year, and they came back and won 4 straight and ended up winning that series. I think the Blackhawks end up beating the Blues in this series, so I don't even think they make it out of the first round. But I see the Ducks coming out of the West. Ducks were by far the best team in the West, and look at Getzlaf. Gets cut up on his face, tons of stitches, huge black eye, comes back, scores a goal, and gets an assist in crunch time to end up winning the game. I know they're losing to the Stars right now, but they're going to end up taking that series, in my guess, 4-1. And I think it's between Montreal and Boston right now out of the East. Boston's playing great hockey, but Montreal right now up 3-0, and the games haven't been close. Montreal is by far one of the best teams in the East, and they're one of the teams who can definitely compete with Chara and Boston. I think it eventually ends up being Boston and the Ducks, but I think the Ducks end up winning the Stanley Cup, and I think Getzlaf finally gets his.
I didn't even put the Ducks in my conference finals. I put the Sharks over them. And I think the Blues, on top of everything, have just one of the most deepest teams in the league. Like, you have guys like TJ Oshie and David Backes, who everyone knows who they are. Everyone knows, especially after Sochi. But
especially Oshie.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can have players like Barrett Jackman, who were down 2-1 to the Blackhawks, game 2, and with 6.4 seconds, Barrett Jackman, who not a lot of people know, scores to go in overtime. And then we win in overtime to put the series up 2-0. So.
And how do you like the performance from my man Ryan Miller so far? He's great, isn't he?
Yeah, no one can shoot on him. No one can. Well, they can shoot on him. They just can't score on him.
Well, since the Sabres didn't really have the best defense, a lot of people were shooting on him, so that kind of affected him. But it warmed him up nicely for St. Louis.
It did.
Say. All right. Well, the show is winding down, so be sure to stay here for our last segment. 30 seconds is coming up. You are watching Dorman Sports Chat on UATV Channel 3.
All right, David Hasselhoff, the Hawk. Get Hawk with UATV. Stay tuned. Don't change the dial.
Time to cap this episode of DRSC off with a quick game of 30 seconds where Danny, Zoe, and I each have a half minute to voice any particular topic we want in sports. So Zoe, go ahead.
So, as you know, NCAA has now passed the rule to give unlimited food to their athletes. And I think it's just weird that when it was first, like, you only get a certain amount of meals, that a bagel, like one bagel without cream cheese, did not count as a meal, but one bagel with cream cheese counted as a meal. And as Shabazz Napier said at the end, he was hungry, so I think that sparked everything off of the NCAA.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that just ridiculous? It's not a meal if
Yeah,
it's just a bagel, but then when you put cream cheese on it, it's
the
a meal.
whole rule was basically an
3
abomination to the NCAA just to begin with. For the amount of money that they have, they can't feed their players as much as they want. That's a joke.
And they're athletes, they're hungry.
Yeah, they're big fellas.
they're
You gotta feed
huge.
the big fella. Yeah. All right, Danny, go ahead.
I'm actually going to talk about Nick Johnson's decision to go to the NBA.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of it. I don't think he's going to have that great of a career in the NBA. I think he could definitely be a role player. I don't think he'll ever start. I think he could be probably a seventh man off the bench at best. I think he'll go late in the second round. So why not stay another year? You're going to get the same contract next year. Why not stay an extra year, maybe move up to the front end of the second round, get a little bit more money, but stay in Tucson and try and earn that championship on a team that has a great chance of winning that championship. I don't think there's that big of a difference. I think he should have stayed.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real toss-up, but I guess in the end of the day, he wanted the money now. So
yeah.
You think he's better than Gordon?
No.
Because I think he sucks. I think he should definitely. Whoops. You should
That's
stay
okay.
another year.
It's our first episode, everyone. All right, I'll close this out. I just wanted to talk real quickly about one of the funniest hockey fights I've ever seen, and I want to say like fights because Zdeno Chara, 6'9", 255 pounds, against Brendan Smith of the Detroit Red Wings. He's 6'2", 198 pounds. Smith comes up, tries to fight Chara, and as they're grabbing each other's jerseys, Chara is literally laughing as he punches him. The size is just incredible, the size difference that is. And coming from me especially, I know when the right time to pick a fight is as a small person. I'm not going to go against a big guy like that. It's just stupid.
It's also Brendan Smith's first playoff appearance.
So and he's already trying to fight Zdeno Chara.
So for him to go against Chara, that's a joke.
He's trying to make a statement, and I feel like it just failed.
Yeah.
It's like the David and Goliath of hockey.
Yeah, except this time Goliath
there's no way Goliath loses.
Goliath was not losing that night. Well, that's it for this episode of DRSC. We'd like to thank you for tuning in. For our analysts Danny Passavoy and Zoe Wolkowitz, along with our entire studio crew, I'm Joey Petrello, cordially wishing you a wonderful good night. You are watching Dorman Sports Chat on UATV Channel 3.